Hello and welcome to episode 275 of the Epic Film Challenge 2, 1001 Movies You Must See Before You Die, from 1986, the great year of 1986 for films, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, directed and written by John Hughes. Before we get into it, just a little bit of background here. We watched a lot of John Hughes films during the lockdown period in 2020. And so this wasn't like a let's watch Ferris Bueller to review for the book, because I didn't really remember that it was in the book. I was pleasantly surprised to see that it was, but we watched 16 Candles, Weird Science, Breakfast Club, Ferris Bueller, and then Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. So it was just Uncle Buck, She's Having a Baby, and Curly Sue, I believe, were the other three films that he directed. And I've seen two of them, but not Curly Sue. Anyway, so this was kind of just like a little mini John Hughes season, which was great for me because I'd never seen 16 Candles or Weird Science. And you can see like the beginnings of kind of the great stuff he was going to do with Breakfast Club, Ferris Bueller, and Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. And we previously talked about the Breakfast Club from the book. And the other film in there is Ferris Bueller. So before I get into it, as I like to get into it, when did you first see it? Did I show it to you?
I'm pretty sure you did,
okay.
yeah. I don't think I'd seen it before.
So you've probably only seen it a couple of times then, and you're not as familiar with it as I am.
2 or 3 maybe before, yeah.
So what are your general thoughts on the film?
We never start with me.
I guess I'm just trying to change it up a little bit. Okay, I'll do
I like changing it up. Just
I'll do
you think first.
All right, we'll do the plot. The film, I mean, it sets itself up with the title. It's about this guy in high school called Ferris Bueller, who decides to take a day off school. He pretends that he's sick, and I think anyone watching that film, I mean, you must have surely pretended to be sick to get off school, right? I mean...
Not while I lived with my mom, no.
Has anyone, not done that? I mean...
When I was in my high school years, I would do that, but not while I was still, at my mom's.
What's the difference?
If I spent like a night with a friend or anything like that, then maybe I would be like, we'll just call in sick today.
Okay.
And then she'd find out.
Right. So I mean, I'd done it. I pretended to be sick and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, I just feel like it's a really relatable thing for kids.
Oh, you would. A lot more.
Yeah. The classic story is the one time I got on the bus to school and I just never got off and rode it round all morning until the bus driver said, you got to go to school. And then I just got off in my hometown and sat in a tree for 2 hours feeling really guilty. But, in this case, it's like, lying to your parents, saying that you're sick, and then, just doing whatever you want. But in this case, Ferris Bueller decides he's going to make this like the best day ever. And so he's going to get his best friend, Cameron, to come out with him, go into the city of Chicago. They're going to do all these crazy things and kind of very much risk getting caught. And the whole film is just one day, basically. And all the while, his parents are kind of out and about on their day, at work and things like that. He frequently kind of crosses paths almost with them. There's his sister, played by, I forget the actress's name. Do you know it? Jennifer Grey?
Yeah.
That's it? Yeah, wasn't confident in that when I said it. Okay, so she plays his sister, and she is like the only person in the whole film who seems to be not as enamored with Ferris as everyone else. Like, the joke is that, like, his parents are just like, they think he's the sweetest angel ever. He's very clearly lying to them that he's sick, and they're just like, just coddling him and stuff. And then all the kids in school, they hear that he's sick, and then the story just extrapolates to the point where he needs like a kidney transplant or something, and then
they think he's dying.
You think he's dying and
they're
stuff.
They're doing charity or something. They're like collecting money for.
One of my favorite parts of the film was just the big water tower with "Save Ferris" written. I mean, that's one of my favorite sight gags in the film because it's just the extreme that it would go to so quickly over the course of the day. And I should say that his sister, just sees through his bullshit completely, and she has such contempt for him, and she has her own little mini movie throughout the film where she's kind of just, why doesn't anyone see what he's doing and that he's faking this? But also I would say Cameron is someone who, that's an interesting character, Cameron, because he's a much different person than Ferris. Like, he's a very shy, kind of quiet kind of guy. Comes out of his shell a little bit, but he just doesn't seem like the kind of person who would be friends with Ferris, which is what makes it a really interesting film in that sense, because it's very much about their friendship and how Ferris is either being quite unkind to him Well, it depends on what your view is. Like, do you think that he's like almost bullying him in a sense, or do you think he's trying to get something out of him? He's trying to make Cameron.
Maybe a mixture, because
It's a little bit,
friendships
isn't it?
in that age, it's
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of like that, isn't it?
Because a lot of people have said that, you know, Ferris is the villain and Cameron's the hero, and it really should be called Cameron's Day Off. And the film, very much, I think the big arc of the movie is Cameron. Basically, it's him as this guy who's really oppressed by his parents and doesn't have a very good relationship with his father. And by the end of the film, he has decided he's going to try and let go of that, which is a very kind of poignant thing. Whereas Ferris is Ferris, you know, he's kind of the, you know, happy-go-lucky guy who's going to like
Doesn't care about anything.
doesn't care about anything. He's going to like, you know, dance with danger throughout the whole film, gets away with it in the end. You know, there's no real arc to him, but Cameron is the real interesting one. But I don't think it's as simple as saying, you know, Ferris is the villain and doesn't really care about him. I think it's a mixture, like you say. It's I think he's really trying to get Cameron to come out of his shell a little bit more, especially as it's, I think.
And it's selfish.
Yeah.
It's selfish of him to not let anyone, like even his best friend, be who he is.
Yeah. So there's a little bit of tough love going on there, I think.
Bad influence.
A little bit of bad influence, and I think
Little bit.
And I think that, well, okay.
Just steal the car and it makes him take the day off. Well,
No,
he was going to
steal
stay home anyway.
He doesn't steal it. It's his dad's car. I mean, I guess technically it's...
He's not allowed to touch the car.
I know, but it's, you know...
He makes him take it.
I don't know. I don't think it's...
It doesn't end well either.
Well, this is going to end badly. Yeah. Where was I going with that? So, Cameron, Ferris... yeah, so it's an interesting relationship between the two of them that really is the kind of the core of the film. You have the girlfriend, who is kind of along for the ride a little bit. I guess she makes it a lot more interesting, and there's kind of a different dynamic between the three of them when she gets involved. But there was something else. Where was I going with this? Right. So yeah. Okay. So I think that the film is kind of hinting that high school is coming to a close, and so it seems like almost a last hurrah for the two of them in this like day off that they have. And I love how it's like, you know, it just keeps getting more ridiculous. They go to like a fancy restaurant and almost bump into his dad, and then they go to like a baseball game, and the teacher Rooney, who is like on their case, he again, he's actually no, okay, there's a few characters that see through Ferris's bullshit. I'll retract my earlier statement. So that the principal, he's got a laser focus. He wants to catch him, and so he just abandons the school day, and he's out in Chicago trying to find Ferris. And they're at a ball game, and they're on TV, and he just misses it, you know. And his little side adventure is really funny as well. I think, I don't want to go into it too much, but the actor who plays that character, I think he's also in Beetlejuice. I think there was some allegations against him that were not nice, and so it almost, it's, you know, I haven't read into it because I don't like that kind of stuff, but it's one of those things where, like, oh, really, man? You know, it's one of those characters in one of my favorite films, and they, you know, as a human, they're pretty grim. So that sucks, but I haven't really looked into it. Yeah, there's some sort of shady, like, yeah, I don't want to get into it, but I don't know why I mentioned it. I guess because I can't remove it fully from the back of my head. But I will say he has the best line of the film. I don't think it's the best line, but it's the line that has stuck with me, and I quote it all the time. Not to you, because we quote stuff together a lot, right? Like when we live together, we're with each other all the time. We have these little in-jokes and quotes and things. But this is something I just quote to myself. Like I'll be in my head, I'll just quote it, and it can be the smallest thing. It's when Ferris picks up his girlfriend at the school, and he's pretending to be his girlfriend's dad in a trench coat and a hat. And so the principal who's trying to catch Ferris is standing right there. And the guy he's trying to catch is right in front of him. But, you know, the girl goes off. And as soon as she gets there, Ferris just kisses her. So the principal thinks he's seeing this girl's father, like, making out with her. And he just looks and he squints and he goes, huh, so that's how it is in their family. And that's just the line that always, like, I'll just morph it in my head, like, oh, so that's the way he wants to be, like in my head, you know. So it's just the intonation of, so that's how it is. Like that's just the one line that has always completely stuck with me from that film. I first saw it when I was about 15. I rented it from Blockbuster and loved it. And I have to say that in recent years I've kind of looked at it as like, oh, it's you know, it's a favorite film, but it's not one that really holds up all that much. But watching it again now, I remembered how much I loved it, and I think for me the pinnacle of the movie is the parade scene when he's singing on the float. It's just such a like positive, happy scene, and you have like people dancing in like the background and stuff, and apparently like some of the people who weren't even really extras were kind of getting involved and stuff, and they caught that stuff on camera. Obviously, he's not singing, which kind of almost takes away from it a little bit, but it's just such a brilliant kind of, you cut up to the skyscrapers and his dad is looking down, kind of like dancing along, like not realizing his son is down there on the float. So there's lots to go into with the film, but it's not really a film you can analyze that much, I don't think. Maybe you can. I think there's probably a lot of depth that you can look into with the Cameron character, but I don't think it's something we need to talk about a whole lot as a film. But it's one that just continues to hold up for me. So what are your thoughts on the film just generally, now that I've waffled on for a while?
I was eager to watch it again because I knew that it's one of those kind of feel-good movies. It's not like feel-good like
easy watch.
It's not like that. But yeah, it's easy
Fun,
to watch. It's funny. It's a little cringeworthy sometimes and can get panicky with certain cars and situations because you don't want them to get caught.
Yeah.
But it's just also the characters, like for me, Jennifer Grey being in it is kind of cool because I love Dirty Dancing.
Which should be in the book, I think.
It's so stupid that it's not.
Yeah.
Obviously it doesn't like chick flicks. But yeah, no, it's funny the way it builds up. It's stupid. That's what makes it funny as well, because of the way he gets out of going into school, like the way he's acting sick is just so like bad.
I know.
And then he talks directly to the camera afterwards saying like that was the worst performance
yes.
I've ever done, but they still bought it.
The worst performance of my career, and they never doubted it for a second.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like it's meant to be bad, and that makes that funny as well, because the way he talks into the camera, it makes you get into the movie in a different way.
Yeah.
I like Ferris Bueller more than Cameron. Cameron to me is a little bit too like... I think it just feels like a guy that I would never want to be friends with, and so I feel less interested. I want him to get out of this whole thing, like bad relationship with his dad, but that's about it. I'm thinking if I was Cameron, I wouldn't want to be friends with Ferris. And that's probably what you like, because you're so different. Like normally they wouldn't be friends, I guess. And but because I wouldn't want to be friends with Ferris either.
maybe I relate to it because I feel like Ferris is the kind of character you'd want to be friends with in high school. Maybe looking at it from like an adult perspective, you see that Ferris is, a little bit of a jerk or whatever. But as someone in high school, you'd want to be friends with someone who's that popular, and I could probably relate more to the Cameron character. Maybe that's where I kind of enjoy the dynamic between the two.
I feel like I'm the opposite of both of them. I like someone who's like, oh, let's go live and everything, but he's breaking so many rules and I don't like that. Whereas Cameron is just too fucking depressing. Yeah. So I wouldn't want to be friends with him either, because he'd just be like dragging me down every day. So the way that Ferris is the complete opposite is probably what helps him stay sane, I guess. So in that way, I don't really like any of them, if I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Well, I like them in the movie, but as a person, I even like...
Well, that's why it's just a movie, I guess.
Yeah. I know, but it's like... Yeah, it's interesting when I think about it like that. Like, if I would befriend one of them, but if in high school, I would only pretend that I liked him because he would be the cool one. That's the only way, but I would really be like, oh, God, where are you going to end up? It's bad influence. But other than that, no, I think the principal guy is funny because of the whole, like, he wants to see the dead grandmother or something for the girl. And
can you produce a corpse or something?
Yeah, like he thinks that it's Ferris pretending to be the dad calling in to say that the mom has died.
And they pull a double switch on him.
And then it was actually Cameron. Yeah. And then Ferris is calling in, and then he's like, oh, shit. And that is just so fun, because you can imagine the way you would have felt if it was you in those shoes. And no, it's fun. The way it builds up, the parade, even though it's cheesy, it's fun as well. Like nothing like that would ever happen in real life with a parade like that. No, yeah. But it's funny because it's an unrealistic movie that way.
Yeah, well, it's that concept of Ferris just being able to get away with anything. You get away with you can just walk onto a float and there we go. That's it.
I guess I would be friends with his sister.
You would?
I would love to hang out with Jennifer Grey. She's pissy. She wants to keep things straight, but she still wants her own life. I would be the sister.
Yeah.
You go, I'd be friends with her. I'd be like, let's get this bastard.
There's a lot of parallels there.
And then I would let him go in the end. the same way.
But I think the most satisfying scene of the film for me is when Cameron, they realize that they've taken his father's Ferrari out, and they've realized they can't reverse the is it the pedometer?
miles.
Yeah, the miles on the car. I don't know what you call the meter. And he's just like completely despondent. He won't say anything. And now Ferris and the girlfriend, they're really worried about him. And then eventually he pretends to drown himself, which isn't funny. But then he basically reveals to Ferris that he was just joking around and just trying to get him back and make him feel bad.
I don't remember him.
Yeah, he just smirks at him, and Ferris is like, I can't believe you just did this to me. And it's the one moment where Ferris gets egg on his face, and it's kind of satisfying, I think. Yeah, there's so many great moments to it, and I love how John Hughes plays with like little things like the Star Wars theme. When the two guys at the parking garage take the car out, and they're like, "Yeah, no problem, we won't, not a scratch or whatever," and then you just see them flying the car across like Chicago, and there's like the Star Wars music playing. That's the moment when I first watched it. I realized I love this film. Because it has these references and just, I don't know, it seems like John Hughes with this and with Breakfast Club and 16 Candles, he had a real handle on like teenage life, at least at that point. There's things I can relate to, but I'm sure in the 80s it was even more relatable with like, I don't know, he just seemed to have his finger on the pulse with a lot of that stuff, and it just shines through with the film, I think. And like even things like the scene when the teacher is calling his name, which is another iconic line, Bueller, anybody? Bueller, that drawl, that kind of really boring voice, and then you just have the shots of the kids just like drool almost forming on their lips, like it really captures that like the sense of boredom you have in school. So little things, like little details he always throws into it.
And now as you've grown up, you wish you were in school.
Oh yeah,
you'd just be sitting and learning every day. Sounds awesome.
It's that old thing, isn't it?
And now it's like you actually have to do stuff
Yep.
to live. Whereas before, people would cook you food every day and you didn't have to pay rent.
Mm-hmm.
Complaining bitches.
We have a cameo from...
But it was hard being a teenager.
Yeah.
With all the peer pressure and all of that stuff. But I miss school. Just school and getting everything given to me.
We have a cameo from...
Yeah. Cameo.
We have a cameo from Charlie Sheen, who did that old method thing where apparently he stayed up for 2 days straight so that he would look appropriately, out of it and drugged out, whatever, in the police station. And he has an interesting scene with Jennifer Grey where they kind of, initially she hates him, and then all of a sudden they're kind of, tongues down each other's throats. Yeah, anything? I mean, is it a film you should see before you die? I think it is.
Yeah, I feel like it's a classic.
Yeah, it is a classic. I would say, if we're talking John Hughes, The Breakfast Club deserves to be in there. This deserves to be in there, but I would also say Planes, Trains and Automobiles should be in the book, in my opinion. I think that's his other great film that should absolutely be, and I'd love to talk about that someday. But yeah, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. It's fun, easy watch, quotable, I don't know, it's what can I say, really?
It's fun.
It's fun, yeah. There's not too much to analyze. Like I said, I'm sure people have kind of done a deep dive on this film about the psychology of Cameron and everything. I love the moment when he first calls Cameron, and Cameron's just lying in bed, and he's just like, "I'm dying." It's like, you're not dying, you're just sick, or or the line where he's saying that Cameron like enjoys being sick. Lots of great little lines and moments, and yeah, it's a great film. Great music. Kind of a nice, again, upbeat, fits the feel and the tone of the film. Trying to think if there's anything else, really. It's just one of those films, I think, I can't remember what it was. There was some film we reviewed that was like this classic, and we were just kind of like, well, what can we say? It's that film, everyone's talked about it. It's been, discussed to death, so we're just talking about it and logging the film for the Epic Film Challenge too. So there we go. Ferris Bueller's Day Off. John Hughes, legend, great comedy filmmaker, and one of his best. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.